Have you ever passed someone on the street and felt something shift deep in your chest, like the universe paused, waiting for you to act? What if your smallest act of compassion became the turning point in a life you didn't know you were meant to change? This is the story of Marcus Wellington, a billionaire weighed down by his own past, and Isabella Martinez, a single mother whose strength was stretched thin but never broken. It began not with a thunderclap, but with a whisper. A whisper that cracked the cold morning silence with 5 trembling words. "Please sir, my daughter's hungry." And in that moment, 2 broken lives collided at the exact second they needed each other most. Marcus Wellington wore success like armor, sleek, tailored, and impenetrable. As he stepped out of the glass doors of Wellington Industries that cold Thursday morning, the world saw him for what he was, a tech mogul, a self-made legend. But inside, Marcus felt like a ghost wearing a suit. His $1,000 coat didn't warm the chill he carried from a childhood shaped by hunger and absence. Decades ago, he'd made himself a vow: never again would he be powerless, never again would he ask. And certainly, never again would he go hungry. Yet lately, every night felt like a quiet emergency. His penthouse echoed with silence. His children, grown and distant, barely returned calls. His therapist called it clinical depression. Marcus called it drowning in a success that didn't satisfy. As he walked past the usual city clutter, car horns, coffee carts, murmured greetings, he focused on breathing. In, out. Grounding. He was trying mindful walking, as his therapist suggested. Be present, she'd said. Notice what's around you. That's when he noticed her. A woman stood outside his building, bundled in a worn coat that didn't quite hide the exhaustion carved into her posture. Beside her, a small girl with big eyes clutched a faded backpack. The girl's cheeks were pale. Her fingers fidgeted with the hem of her too large sweater. Marcus barely slowed at first. He passed people like this all the time. The city was full of them, faces blurred by routine, stories hidden behind cardboard signs and sidelong glances. But then he heard her voice. "Please sir, my daughter's hungry." The words weren't shouted. They weren't desperate. They were quiet. Controlled. But they hit him like a punch to the ribs. He stopped walking. There was something in her tone, a fragile balance between fear and dignity, that rooted him to the pavement. She wasn't begging. She was a mother. Protecting her child with the last ounce of strength she had left. He turned. Their eyes met, and time thinned. In Isabella's eyes, he saw exhaustion that mirrored his own. Not from boardrooms or deals, but from survival. From giving every last piece of yourself to someone smaller, softer, who depended on you for everything. Marcus saw himself. Not as the man he was now, but as the boy he used to be. Hungry. Hollow. Clutching a stolen apple behind a dumpster and wondering if anyone in the world would ever care. And now, decades later, someone was asking him. Asking if he'd care enough to stop. To listen. To answer. Have you ever met someone who reminded you of everything you tried to forget, only to realize that's where healing begins? If this moment moved you, don't scroll past. Hit the like button and tell us, have you ever seen yourself in a stranger? Marcus stood there, momentarily frozen, his tailored overcoat shielding him from the bitter wind, but not from the storm churning in his chest. He couldn't move. Not yet. The world around him kept going. Employees passed by, murmuring greetings and nodding respectfully. A delivery truck blared its horn. Somewhere, a pigeon fluttered away from a discarded sandwich wrapper. But Marcus's eyes stayed on Isabella and her daughter, who looked more like shadows than people. Fragile outlines the world might ignore unless someone chose to see them. He hadn't chosen to see anything in a long time. But now he couldn't look away. Sophia coughed again, a wet, tired sound that hit Marcus like a body blow. He knelt slowly, his knees clicking from age and old running injuries. He hadn't bent like this in years, not for his own children when they were small, not even to tie his shoes anymore. But something about this moment demanded it. "Hi Sophia," he said softly. "I'm Marcus." Sophia blinked up at him, unsure whether to smile or hide behind her mother's leg. Her lips were chapped, and her cheeks had the flushed hue of fever. She clutched a small, dirty plush butterfly in her hand, the wings faded but held together with childlike hope. "Are you hungry?" Marcus asked. Sophia nodded. "But Mommy says it's okay." "We're okay." Isabella gently corrected her, crouching beside them now. "She's just tired. She hasn't had a full meal in a couple days." "Why not a shelter?" Marcus asked, not accusing, just confused. "Or social services." "I tried," Isabella replied, her voice low with shame. "But they are full. They said we'd be on a waiting list. And I don't have my nursing license anymore. They won't take us without documentation. ID, proof of income. It's like I have to prove I'm worth saving before they'll help. Marcus looked down, ashamed by how accurate that sounded. He once believed the same thing. He stood up and looked at Isabella. Come with me. She hesitated. Where? There's a cafe down the street. Let's get you both warm and fed. Her first instinct was to refuse. Fear pulsed through her, fear of strings, expectations, tricks wrapped in kindness. But when she looked into his eyes, she saw something real. A quiet, deep pain that mirrored her own. Sophia tugged her sleeve. Can we, Mommy? Please? Isabella nodded slowly. Okay. They walked together, Marcus slightly ahead to clear the path. No one questioned the odd trio, a billionaire in a crisp grey coat, a weary woman in second-hand clothes, and a little girl gripping a butterfly like it was the last piece of her imagination. Inside the cafe, the scent of baked bread and cinnamon wrapped around them like a blanket. Marcus guided them to a corner booth, away from the windows, and asked for privacy. The manager obliged without hesitation. He ordered hot chocolate with extra marshmallows, a grilled cheese for Sophia, and soup for Isabella. Then he looked at them both and said, Get anything you want. Really? No limits. Isabella tried to speak, but her voice caught. She'd forgotten what kindness without conditions felt like. When the food came, Sophia's eyes lit up. She clapped her hands and whispered, It's a feast, before digging in with the unfiltered joy only a child could muster. Marcus smiled at the sight. He watched Isabella more closely. The way she tore her bread into small pieces. The way her hands shook slightly before every bite. She was still on edge, still unsure if this moment was real. I know what it's like, he said after a moment. She looked up. To be hungry. To feel invisible. To pretend like you're okay so the people you love won't worry. Isabella blinked. You? I wasn't always this. He gestured at the suit, the polished shoes, the silk tie. I was just a kid who collected soda cans to buy bread. I used to sleep behind a repair shop and dream of warmth like this. She listened carefully. There was a woman once, Marcus continued, Mrs. Rodriguez. She caught me stealing from her store. Instead of turning me in, she fed me. Taught me to work. She saved my life. I promised her I'd never forget what hunger feels like. His eyes darkened. But I did. Until now. Isabella looked away, her throat tightening. I don't want pity. You're not getting it. Then what is this? It's a chance, he said. Not just for you, but for me too. That stunned her. You? What could you possibly need from someone like me? He leaned in, folding his hands. To remember who I was. To be reminded that helping someone isn't charity, it's humanity. Sophia finished her meal and laid her head on Isabella's lap, eyelids heavy. Her body relaxed for the first time in days. Where are you staying? Marcus asked gently. In my car, Isabella replied. But I move it every night. Try to stay out of trouble. Marcus thought for a moment. Would you let me help? Isabella froze. What do you mean? I have a place. It's big. Empty, honestly. There's a guest suite with its own entrance. You and Sophia could stay there, for now. Just until you get back on your feet. Isabella's heart leapt into her throat. No strings? She asked cautiously. No strings, Marcus replied. Just safety. And a bed. She shook her head. I don't know. That's a lot. I know. And I don't blame you for hesitating. But this isn't about debt or obligation. It's about keeping a promise. He looked at Sophia, sleeping peacefully now. I couldn't save Mrs. Rodriguez when she got sick. I couldn't fix my marriage or reconnect with my kids. But maybe I can help someone who's still fighting. Isabella studied him. His face, lined with sorrow, softened by hope, wasn't trying to impress. He was just trying. Finally, she nodded. Just for a few nights, she said. Until I can figure something out. Of course, he said, as if expecting nothing more. They left the cafe as evening settled in. Snow began to fall again, covering the streets in a hush. Marcus led them to his car, a sleek black SUV that looked entirely out of place next to Isabella's battered Honda. He offered to send someone to pick up her things, but she insisted on driving it herself. She didn't trust Easy. That hadn't changed in an hour. But trust had started to stir. Marcus's penthouse wasn't what she expected. It wasn't cold marble and glass. It was warm, quiet, and filled with soft light. Bookshelves lined the walls, filled with old novels and photo albums. The guest suite was cozier than most homes: plush blankets, soft towels, a stocked mini-fridge. Sophia ran straight for the fluffy rug and collapsed on it, giggling. "She's safe here," Marcus said. "You both are." Isabella nodded, lips trembling. That night, Marcus stood by the window of his study, sipping tea instead of bourbon for the first time in weeks. He watched snow fall gently against the glass, feeling something stir inside him, a feeling he'd long forgotten. Peace. In the guest suite, Isabella sat beside Sophia's bed, watching her daughter breathe more steadily than she had in days. She reached for her journal, one she hadn't touched since David died, and began to write. Tonight, a stranger remembered what it meant to see another human being. And maybe, I'm not alone after all. Morning sunlight spilled through the floor-to-ceiling windows of Marcus's penthouse, touching every surface with a soft, golden hue. In the guest suite, Isabella stirred awake on a real bed for the first time in nearly a month. For a moment, she forgot where she was. The unfamiliar scent of lavender, the weight of a thick comforter, the quiet, no honking cars or nearby engines, confused her. Then she turned her head and saw Sophia sleeping peacefully beside her, her tiny lips parted, her cheeks no longer so pale. It all came rushing back. The cafe. Marcus. His offer. She sat up slowly, blinking away tears. Was it real? Could this man, this billionaire stranger, truly be as kind as he seemed? Or was this just a dream that would vanish the moment she let herself believe in it? Still, there was no denying one thing: her daughter looked better. Stronger. And for the first time in weeks, Isabella didn't wake up with a rock in her stomach. She padded quietly into the suite's private kitchenette and gasped when she opened the fridge. Yogurt. Fresh fruit. Eggs. Bottled juice. All stocked, neatly arranged, labeled in Marcus's assistant's handwriting, for Isabella and Sophia. Her hands trembled slightly as she made toast and scrambled a few eggs. When Sophia finally woke, the little girl's eyes widened at the smell of real breakfast. "Is it our birthday?" she asked innocently. Isabella laughed for the first time in weeks. "No, baby. But maybe it's the beginning of something new." Down the hall, Marcus sat in his study, gazing out at the skyline. He hadn't slept much, not because of stress, but because of something else. Something he hadn't felt in years. Purpose. His assistant, Callie, stepped into the room with her ever-present tablet. "Good morning, Mr. Wellington. I've rescheduled your 10:30 call with the Tokyo partners and—" "Cancel everything for today," Marcus interrupted. Callie blinked. "Sir." "I need the day," he said simply. She hesitated. Is this about the woman and child staying in the guest suite?" "Yes," Marcus replied without looking up. "And before you ask, yes, I know what I'm doing. I just don't know why I waited so long to start doing it." Callie didn't argue. She knew better than most that Marcus's decisions, though often unconventional, always came from a deeply personal place. Later that morning, as Isabella helped Sophia finish her juice, Marcus knocked gently before stepping into the suite. "Morning," he said, holding a small wrapped box. "Hope I'm not intruding." Isabella stood. "No, not at all. Thank you again for, well, everything." He offered her the box. "For Sophia." Sophia gasped when she opened it, a box of crayons and a sketchpad with butterflies embossed on the cover. "It's beautiful," she squealed. "Thank you, Mr. Marcus." He knelt beside her, just like he had the day before. "I heard you like butterflies." She nodded furiously. "They're magic. They start as something small and weird and then they grow wings." Marcus smiled at the poetic accuracy. "Yeah. That's kind of how life works too." After breakfast, he invited them to walk with him to the community park nearby. Isabella hesitated, unsure whether to venture out and be seen in public again, but Sophia's excitement over the swings and fresh air eventually won her over. As they walked, Marcus listened. He listened as Isabella told him about her nursing career, how she once specialized in pediatrics, how she loved calming scared children with lullabies and silly jokes. He listened as she shared how she met Joel at a medical supply fundraiser, how his sense of humor had carried her through nursing school. And he listened as her voice caught when she spoke about losing him, the hospital nights, the machines, the silence after. "I stopped being a nurse the day I stopped believing I could heal anything," she said quietly. Marcus nodded slowly. "I stopped being a person when I stopped letting myself feel." At the park, Sophia ran toward the swings with a giggle that turned heads. Her tiny boots kicked up with chips as she squealed with delight. They sat on a bench, watching her. You know, Marcus said, when I first made money, real money, I told myself I was going to give back. Open shelters. Start charities. Change the world. But once the meeting started, once the mergers and takeovers began, I forgot. You didn't forget, Isabella said. You just got tired of hurting. He looked at her, surprised by how accurately she'd named the thing he never said out loud. You think you're numb, she added, but you're not. You're just afraid of what feeling again might cost. They sat in silence after that, the wind rustling the leaves. Marcus felt something inside him crack open. That evening, he cooked dinner for them himself. Or tried to. The pasta overboiled, the garlic burned, and the smoke alarm briefly turned the penthouse into chaos. But Isabella's laughter, loud, unfiltered, free, was worth every mistake. You're terrible at this, she teased, wiping flour off her cheek. I'm a billionaire, not a chef, he joked back. Sophia, mouth full of underseasoned spaghetti, declared it the best meal ever. They spent the next 2 nights like that, learning each other slowly, quietly. No grand gestures. No promises. Just small moments, warm meals, bedtime stories, shared silences. But it couldn't last forever. On the 4th morning, Marcus received a call from his daughter, Ava. They hadn't spoken in over a year. Her voice was brittle, defensive. I heard what you're doing, she said flatly. The news got wind of it. News? They're calling it a compassion project. A rebrand. The comments aren't kind. Marcus closed his eyes. It's not a PR stunt. Ava sighed. I don't care about that. I care that you're doing more for a stranger than you ever did for your own family. The words landed like a slap. I'm trying, he said softly. I know I failed you and your brother. I know money isn't the same as love. But I didn't know how to give what I didn't grow up with. There was a long pause on the other end. I'm not ready to forgive you, she said finally. But I hope she does. When Marcus returned to the guest suite, Isabella noticed the change in his face. Everything okay? She asked. He nodded slowly. Just the past knocking. I let it in for a minute. She understood. She lived with her past too. Later that day, while Sophia napped, Isabella sat with Marcus in the quiet kitchen. She took a deep breath and said, I've been thinking. He looked up. I need to work again. I need to stand on my own 2 feet. You will, Marcus said. In time. No, she said, firmer now. Now. You've given us more than safety. You reminded me I'm still capable. That I can still help people. She reached into her bag and pulled out an envelope, her old resume, updated by hand. I want to apply at the children's clinic near the park, she said. They said they might consider provisional hires. If you'll write a letter for me, I'll do the rest. Marcus looked at her, really looked. At the fire in her eyes. The quiet, trembling strength. Of course, he said. And I'll make some calls. She shook her head. No favors. Just the letter. He smiled. Deal. That night, after Sophia had gone to bed, Isabella stepped out onto the penthouse balcony. Marcus joined her, both of them wrapped in silence as the city shimmered below. You know, she said softly, I came to you for food. But I think what we really needed was to be seen. He turned to her. So did I. And in that moment, without fireworks or music or magic, they understood something sacred. Sometimes, 2 broken people don't need to fix each other. Sometimes, they just need to sit quietly beside each other and remember what it feels like to be whole. 2 weeks passed. Life had settled into a rhythm that felt almost normal. Each morning, Isabella woke in a warm bed. Each afternoon, Sophia returned from her new daycare humming songs and proudly displaying butterfly drawings. And each evening, Marcus returned from work not to an empty penthouse, but to the smell of dinner cooking and the faint sound of Sophia's laughter echoing from down the hall. The change was subtle, yet profound. The man who once lived in silence and steel now found joy in mismatched socks scattered on his hardwood floor, half-colored princess pictures taped to his refrigerator, and the occasional toy stuffed beneath his couch cushions. Marcus didn't mind. In fact, he looked forward to it. And Isabella, she was blossoming. She'd secured a temporary nursing position at the children's clinic, just like she'd hoped. It wasn't easy, the board was hesitant at first, but after Marcus submitted a glowing letter of recommendation, with no mention of money or favors, and after she aced a series of interviews and skill tests, they gave her a provisional hire. The first time she slipped back into her scrubs, she wept. Quiet, trembling tears. Not of sorrow, but of return. One evening, after a long day at the clinic, Isabella stepped out onto the balcony where Marcus stood nursing a mug of coffee. The sky was painted in streaks of amber and violet, the city pulsing below. She stood beside him without speaking. He passed her the extra mug he'd brought for her. She smiled. "I forgot what it felt like," she murmured. "To be someone again. To make a difference." "You never stopped being someone," Marcus replied. "You just needed someone to remind you." She looked at him. There was something unspoken between them. Gratitude, yes, but something deeper, something neither had dared name yet. Not love. Not yet. But something like trust. The soft beginnings of rebuilding. Marcus cleared his throat. "There's something I want to show you." He disappeared for a moment and returned with a folder. Inside was a proposal, an entire business plan, actually. At the top, Rodriguez's house, a healing place for single mothers. Isabella's eyes widened. "This," she breathed. "Is this a shelter?" Marcus nodded. "Not just a shelter. A home. A place where women like you can land on their feet. Medical care. Job training. Therapy. Temporary housing. All in one place." She stared at the pages, stunned. "I can fund it," he continued. "But I want someone with lived experience to help shape it. Someone who knows what it's like to fight through fire and come out stronger." "You mean, me?" He smiled. "Who better?" Emotion welled up in her chest. "I don't know what to say." "Say you'll think about it," he said gently. She nodded, overwhelmed. Days turned into weeks. The holidays crept closer. The city transformed with wreaths, garlands, and glowing window displays. For the first time since Joel's passing, Isabella found herself humming along to Christmas songs while folding laundry. She bought Sophia a small pink backpack. Marcus let her choose a tree for the penthouse, which ended up being twice her size and covered in butterflies. Still, something lingered in the air, unspoken, hovering. One night, after tucking Sophia into bed, Isabella wandered into Marcus's study. He was there, reading through board memos but barely focused. "I heard from Ava today," he said quietly, closing his laptop. Isabella sat across from him. "How did it go?" "She invited me to Christmas dinner," he replied. "First time in years." "That's incredible." She said she saw the article online. "About the clinic. About you. About Sophia." Isabella tensed. Was she upset? "No," Marcus said. She said. "You finally showed up for someone." It stung. But it was honest. And maybe I needed to hear it. He looked up. "I want to be better. Not just for the press. For real. I just don't know if it's too late." She reached across the desk, placing her hand over his. "It's not." Silence settled again. Heavy. Familiar. Safe. And then she whispered, "You saved me." "No," he said, his voice cracking. "You saved me." He stood and walked around the desk. Carefully. Slowly. As though afraid to break whatever delicate thing had bloomed between them. When he reached her, he touched her face, just a brush of his fingers against her cheek. She leaned into it, eyes closing. He didn't kiss her. Not yet. But the space between them was no longer empty. It was filled with possibility. And in that quiet room, with the glow of the city lights reflecting off the windowpane, they both realized. What started as rescue had grown into something neither of them expected. Not just survival. But healing. Together. On Christmas morning, snow dusted the streets of the city like powdered sugar. The penthouse was alive with energy, Sophia darting between wrapped presents, her giggles echoing off the walls. Isabella sat cross-legged on the rug, her heart so full it ached. Marcus entered the room with a large box wrapped in silver paper and handed it to Sophia. She tore it open with glee. Inside was a butterfly-shaped nightlight, glowing soft purple and blue. "So I never have to be afraid of the dark again," Marcus explained. Isabella blinked back tears. Later that day, they drove to Ava's home, an elegant townhouse nestled in a quiet neighborhood. Isabella stayed in the car at first, nervous, but Ava greeted them at the door with cautious warmth. Sophia held a handmade card and offered it shyly. "Merry Christmas." Ava knelt to her level. "Thank you, sweetheart." Marcus stepped forward. "Thank you for letting us come." "I'm still mad," Ava said honestly. "But I see you trying. And I don't want to be the reason you stop." They hugged, An awkward, tight-lipped, teary embrace that somehow mended years of silence. Inside, the table was set for four. They ate together, laughed, cried a little. And for the first time in years, Marcus felt like a father again. Like a human being again. That night, as he drove Isabella and Sophia back home, he said softly, "I never thought I'd get another chance." She smiled. Sometimes life doesn't give second chances. It gives first chances disguised as miracles. He glanced at her, his heart full. Then maybe, we all needed a miracle. Back at the penthouse, after Sophia had fallen asleep clutching her new nightlight, Isabella stood by the tree, looking at the glowing butterfly ornaments. "Marcus." "Yeah? I've made a decision. About the Rodriguez house." He turned to her, hopeful. "I want to help build it. Not just design it. I want to run it. Hands-on. Every day. Help other women, like me. Like who I was." His eyes lit with something he hadn't felt in decades, pride. "Then we'll build it together." She stepped closer. "And, when we're ready, maybe we can build something else too. Something more." His breath caught. He reached for her hand. This time, she didn't let go. 6 months later, a ribbon fluttered in the spring breeze as cameras clicked and a modest crowd gathered outside a renovated brownstone on 12th Street. The plaque beside the door gleamed in the sun. Rodriguez House, a healing place for mothers. Marcus stood to the side, his suit tailored but his expression raw with emotion. Isabella stood at the podium, Sophia by her side holding a small bouquet of yellow daisies. Her voice, steady and clear, rang through the quiet street. "This isn't just a building," Isabella said. "It's a promise. That no woman should ever have to choose between her pride and her child's survival. That help should feel like hope, not pity." She paused, her gaze sweeping the small audience, nurses, volunteers, donors, a few women already living inside. "And it's named after the woman who reminded a young, starving boy that dignity doesn't come from money, it comes from being seen." She turned toward Marcus. He looked away briefly, blinking hard. Isabella smiled. "Mrs. Rodriguez changed his life. And because of that, he changed mine. And now, we hope to change many more." Applause erupted as the ribbon was cut. Reporters snapped photos. Sophia held Marcus's hand and tugged gently. "You're smiling like Daddy used to." Marcus knelt beside her. "Do you remember much about him?" She nodded. "I remember his laugh. But now I remember you too." He smiled, his throat thick. "I'm glad." Later that evening, as the event wound down and the guests departed, Isabella walked through the quiet halls of Rodriguez's house. Cribs had been set up. Care bags placed gently on bunks. The kitchen gleamed. In one corner, a small reading nook glowed with fairy lights and pillows. A tiny sign above read, "You are not alone." She turned a corner and found Marcus standing in the doorway of what would soon be her new office. "You okay?" he asked softly. "I've never been more than okay," she whispered. "I feel whole." They stood in silence a moment. Then she looked up at him. "You know what I realized today?" "What?" "This house, it's not just for them. It's for us, too. Every piece of it is part of your healing, and mine. We built something that will outlast pain." Marcus took her hands, eyes filled with something deeper than gratitude. "And we'll keep building," he said. "As long as we're together." He pulled her gently into his arms. This time, she didn't hesitate. And there, in a house born of sorrow and built with love, two broken people, who once wandered alone through life, found not just a place to belong, but each other. That night, as the city lights twinkled outside the penthouse windows, Marcus tucked Sophia into bed. She clutched a soft blanket given to her by one of the women at Rodriguez's house. "Mommy said we're all miracles," she whispered. "Are you a miracle, too?" He smiled, brushing her hair from her eyes. "No," he whispered. "But I was lucky enough to find one." She yawned, content, drifting to sleep. In the living room, Isabella sat on the couch, reviewing intake forms for new mothers scheduled to arrive next week. Marcus joined her, placing a cup of tea by her side. They sat in silence, surrounded by the gentle hum of the city and the quiet joy of what they'd built. And in that stillness, they both knew. Sometimes, miracles don't arrive in blinding lights or grand gestures. Sometimes, they come as a whispered plea. "Please sir, my daughter's hungry." And the miracle is simply someone listening. Like this video if you believe no act of kindness is ever wasted. And don't forget to subscribe to Everbell's Stories for more heartwarming tales like this one.